Hi there, and welcome to The Daily Gardener, a podcast about garden history and literature. I'm your host, Jennifer Ebling, and today is November 12th. Well, November arrives with a certain melancholy beauty that only gardeners truly understand. As we navigate this transitional month, our gardens shed their autumn glory, revealing the quiet strength of structure beneath. Today's reflections draw from three masterful observers of the November garden, each capturing a different facet of this contemplative season. Let's begin with Charles Dickens, who, in Bleak House, paints an atmospheric picture of a grand estate surrendering to autumn's embrace. Around and around the house, the leaves fall thick, but never fast, for they come circling down with a dead lightness that is somber and slow. Let the gardener sweep and sweep the turf, as he will, and press the leaves into full barrows and wheel them off. Still they lie ankle deep. While Dickens captures November's moody atmosphere, in our second reading, Odessa Begay reminds us that even in this somber month, the chrysanthemum brings its steadfast cheer. In The Language of Flowers, Odessa reveals the Victorian fascination with these hardy blooms. She writes, "In the Victorian garden, chrysanthemums were regarded as a hardy perennial flower, with a happy appearance and a scent similar to chamomile. Some species have also been described as having a bitter or spicy scent, which Louise Beebe Wilder refers to as a nose twister, similar to the scent of nasturtiums." Chrysanthemums were frequently showcased in flower shows all over Victorian England. An entry from the Gardener's Chronicle for 1841 explains that the novelty of chrysanthemums led to its classification as a florist flower. New varieties of chrysanthemums were judged by a strict set of rules to determine their quality. Little fascinating history on the chrysanthemum as we start today's show. Joe Eck and Wayne Winterraud offer us perhaps the most hopeful perspective on November's garden. In their book called A Year at North Hill, Their Beautiful Vermont Garden, they remind us that as deciduous trees shed their leaves, a hidden beauty emerges. Chilly mists are the best working conditions we can hope for throughout most of November. Pelting rains and even flurries are worse. But the worst of all are the hard, clear days when dry Arctic air sweeps down from northern Canada, clearing out the chill mists and rain to deep freeze the garden and the gardener alike. Still, we must work until all is done. And given the weather, whatever it is fortunate that the garden still presents us with so much beauty. Though all the flowers are gone by now, even the last sturdy lingerers, November is the beginning of the conifer season. It is always with sharp surprise that we realize how splendid they are. Though they are constant and prominent members of the garden, always there to provide weight and depth to other plantings, in spring, summer, and early fall, they are eclipsed by the fully clothed forms of the deciduous trees and shrubs. When the last leaves fall, however, the conifers emerge in an astonishing range of colors and shapes, all thickly clad with fresh new needles. Their return to prominence is as thrilling in its way as the emerging bulbs of March or the reliefing of the maples and beeches in May. It is the return to consciousness of something loved, but almost forgotten. These three perspectives on November's garden, Dickens' moody meditation on falling leaves, the gay celebration of chrysanthemum's Victorian charm, and Eck and Winterraud's discovery of conifer glory, remind us that November isn't an ending, but rather a revelation. As gardeners, we're privileged to witness this annual unveiling when our gardens shed their showy summer costumes and reveal their true architectural souls. While others might see this month as nature's curtain call, we know it's merely an intermission, setting the stage for winter's quiet drama and spring's eventual return. It's time for today's botanical history. It was on this day, November 12th in 1840, that Auguste Rodin, the great French sculptor, was born. A man who found the divine in both marble and flowers, Auguste Rodin would ultimately earn the title of the father of modern sculpture. Today, we gardeners might better remember him as a kindred spirit who understood that true beauty grows wild and free. Picture, if you will, a young artist walking through the gardens of the Hôtel Biron in Paris, his eyes taking in not just the roses and the rhythms of the formal gardens, but seeing deeper, seeing the very soul of each flower. This was Rodin, who would later write words that make every gardener's heart leap with recognition. The artist is the confidant of nature. Flowers carry on dialogues with him through the graceful bending of their stems. Every flower has a cordial word which nature directs toward him. In 1908, when Rodin moved in to the Hôtel Biron, he didn't just find a studio, he found a garden that would become his living muse. While others might have just seen another Parisian garden, Rodin saw a canvas where art and nature could dance together. He began placing his sculptures thoughtfully among the plantings. He included pieces from his personal collection of antiquities. This practice of integrating sculpture with landscape design was revolutionary for its time and continues to influence garden design today. The garden at the hotel became his outdoor studio, a place where Rodin would often sit for hours, studying how morning light caught the dewdrops on rose petals or how evening shadows played across the face of a marble figure. He saw profound connections between human and botanical forms, noting, "Beauty is everywhere. It is not that she is lacking to our eye, but our eyes which fail to perceive her. Beauty is character and expression." Well, there is nothing in nature which has more character than the human body. It evokes the most varied images. One moment, its strength and its grace, it resembles a flower. The bending torso is the stalk. The breasts, the head, the splendor of the hair answer to the blossoming of the corolla. Rodin understood something we know in our hearts, that there's a profound connection between the art we create in our gardens and the natural world that inspires us. He saw the delicate droop of flower petals and compared them to the eyelid of a child, reminding us that nature's gentlest gestures often echo our own humanity. The Rodin garden achieves something remarkable. It creates a perfect harmony between sculptural art and horticultural design. Here, Rodin's sculptures don't just sit in the garden. They emerge from it, as if they've grown there as naturally as the roses and ivy. The Rodin garden offers something precious. As you work in your own garden today, remember Rodin's words about beauty being everywhere, not lacking in our world, but simply waiting for eyes that know how to perceive it. And it was on this day, November 12th, in 1850, that Princess Therese of Bavaria was born. This remarkable woman found her true calling not in the gilded halls of Bavaria's royal palaces, but in the wild gardens of the world. Therese was a soul who understood what every gardener knows in their heart, that sometimes the greatest treasures are found in the most unexpected places, and that true nobility lies in the patient study of nature's wonders. Imagine, if you will, a young princess staring out of her palace windows, not dreaming of balls and courtly romance, but of far-off jungles and undiscovered flowers. Little Therese's love affair with botany began in her childhood garden, where she would spend hours studying every leaf and petal, her curious mind already reaching beyond the carefully manicured palace grounds to the wild places that called her spirit. After losing her beloved mother at age 13, Therese dared to dream bigger. When society said women couldn't attend university, she created her own classroom in the great outdoors. She learned 12 languages, not to shine at diplomatic functions, but to speak with local botanists and indigenous peoples about their plants. Picture Therese, this royal botanist, trading her fine dresses for practical expedition wear, and then venturing 1,000 miles up the Amazon River in 1888. There, amidst the steamy jungle air, she wasn't Princess Therese anymore. She was simply a devoted plant hunter, braving spider-filled nights and mosquito-clouded days. In the heat of the Brazilian tropics, through the high passes of the Andes, across the wind-swept pampas, and into the austere beauty of the Atacama Desert, she carried that same reverence for every leaf and flower she encountered. What makes her story especially poignant for gardeners is how Therese transformed her own garden in Lindau in her later years. Here, overlooking Lake Constance, she created a living botanical treasury, filling it with rare trees and plants, each one a story, each one a memory of her adventures. Therese's greatest legacy isn't just in the specimens carefully preserved in Munich's herbarium or in the species that bear her name. It's in the way she reminds us that the truest path to happiness often leads through a garden gate. Therese showed us that whether you're a princess in a palace or a gardener in a humble backyard, the joy of discovering and nurturing plants knows no bounds. It's time to grow that garden library with today's book, Habitat Creation in Garden Design by Catherine Hetherington and Alex Johnson. Well, this book was released in August of 2023, and the subtitle is A Guide to Designing Places for People and Wildlife. Let me share two compelling excerpts that I think best capture the essence of this groundbreaking work. This first excerpt speaks to a common misperception about wildlife gardens as messy. There is a tendency to equate messiness with naturalness, and the idea that wildlife gardens need to be untidy and unkept and have a little nettle patch, even though there is research that shows this need not be the case. In some respects, ecosystems are messy. Vegetation intermingles, brambles scramble and engulf, leaf litter and fallen branches decompose. But there are other cases where we see patterns in the dispersion of perennials and the tapestry of the moorland, in the horizontality of a carpet of bluebells and the vertical forms of trees. We will discuss how to balance the desire for a garden that looks attractive throughout the year with the need for some measure of untidiness. Landscape architect and academic Joan Iverson Nassauer's influential paper, Messy Ecosystems, Orderly Frames, was written nearly 3 decades ago. But much of what she says remains relevant today. She points to the necessity of designing cues that provide a cultural context for ecological function. These cues draw attention away from the appearance of messiness, indicating that the ecosystem is, in some way, cared for. At its simplest, this could be mowing an edge strip along a hedgerow or a path through a meadow, as suggested by ecologist Oliver Gilbert in 1989. Isn't that clever? Having those cues of care that mitigate a wild and woolly garden. What makes this book particularly special is that it's written by 2 experienced garden designers who understand both the aesthetic and ecological aspects of garden creation. Catherine Hetherington brings her academic expertise with a PhD from the University of Sheffield, while Alex Johnson contributes 40 years of practical garden design experience and a background in botany and ecology. Together, they created Design Wild Associates, a practice that integrates design with ecology. Well, the second excerpt that I chose for today beautifully articulates the book's core mission. When gardens are connected across towns or cities or neighborhoods, they have the potential to form an extensive vegetated area and thus support a huge range of habitats. It is important to note that this book is solely about gardens. It is not about creating habitats in nature reserves or about returning places to nature or about rewilding. We are not trying to replicate natural places. The other suggestions we make about plant choices and other interventions are specifically made with gardens in mind. We will show how gardens have the potential to support and benefit plants and creatures together with their human visitors, and how they can be enjoyed while also educating and inspiring. And most of all, we hope that by experiencing and working with legible habitat gardens, we will all gain a better understanding of our interconnectedness with wild things and places. This book is 176 pages of practical wisdom to help you create beautiful spaces that serve human aesthetics and wildlife needs. You can get a copy of Habitat Creation in Garden Design by Catherine Hetherington and Alex Johnson and support the show using the Amazon link in today's show notes for around $21. All right, we end today's show with a Botanic Spark that celebrates Clarissa Tucker Tracy, a passionate botanist and the mother of Ripon College. She was born on this day in 1818. Life had both sunshine and shadows in store for Clarissa. She married her beloved Horace Hyde Tracy in 1844. But their happiness was brief. After just 4 years of marriage, she lost him, and then, in a cruel twist of fate, their little daughter Clarissa succumbed to measles in 1851. But like the hardy wildflowers, she chose to bloom where she was replanted, accepting a position at what would become Ripon College in Wisconsin. What makes Clarissa's story particularly touching for us gardeners is how she wove her love of botany into every aspect of her life. She was even known to catch herself analyzing flowers on ladies' bonnets during church services. Her botanical mind always at work. For nearly 30 years, Clarissa studied the local flora of Ripon, collecting specimens with her students and eventually publishing her findings in 1889. When she passed away on November 13, 1905, just one day after her 87th birthday, her final wish spoke volumes about how she viewed her life's work. On her gravestone, she requested just 6 simple words: a teacher in Ripon College. Well, that's it for today's show. I hope you'll take a moment to look at your garden with fresh eyes. See it as Rodin might have seen it, with its sculptural forms and artistic grace. Imagine it as Princess Therese would have, as a place of endless discovery. Envision it as today's authors suggest, as a sanctuary for wildlife. And study it as Clarissa Tracy did, as a classroom for life's most precious lessons. Thanks for listening to The Daily Gardener. And remember, for a happy, healthy life, garden every day.